there is a lie. Florida water tells, and it tells it by looking full. Drop a line in almost any canal south of Orlando and something hits it. The lakes boil with fish at dawn. The Everglades, from an airboat, looks like the most alive place in America. Herons stacked in the trees, water churning with life in every direction. And that abundance is exactly the problem, because a great deal of what is now living in that water was never supposed to be there. The tank is full. It is just full of the wrong things. This is a quieter kind of disaster than a shark or a flood. Nothing here is going to bite a swimmer. What these fish are doing instead is slower and, in the long run, worse. They are eating the native Florida out of its own water, one spawning bed and one food web at a time, and replacing it with themselves. By the U.S. Geological Survey's count, more than 60 non-native aquatic species have been introduced into the waters of Florida, the Caribbean, and the Gulf in the last century alone. Most of them arrived the same boring way, dumped from a home aquarium, escaped from a fish farm, and found in Florida's warm, wet, frost-free plumbing a nearly perfect copy of home. Today we are counting down 9 invasive fish infesting Florida's waters, ranked not by size and not by which is the meanest on a hook, but by how completely each one is erasing the native life that was there before it. Some of these you can catch this afternoon, and number 1 you will almost certainly never see at all, because it spends its life buried in the mud, quietly hollowing out the most famous wetland on Earth. By the time we reach it, you may look at all that abundance a little differently. Before we start counting down, if this is the kind of thing that gets under your skin, go ahead and subscribe. It takes 2 seconds and it genuinely helps the channel. And I want to know one thing while you're here. Where in the world are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. Florida or the far side of the planet, I love seeing how far this reaches. Now let's get into the water. Number 9, the blue tilapia. We begin with the invader. Most Floridians have stopped even recognizing as foreign because it has simply always been there, for them. Tilapia are not from here. They are African and Middle Eastern food fish, farmed for their mild white meat all over the world, and in the 1960s, some of them escaped Florida fish farms and never looked back. Today, blue tilapia, spotted tilapia, and their relatives are among the most abundant fish in South Florida's canals and lakes. The damage they do is not dramatic, it is demographic. Tilapia are relentless nesting fish, and the males scoop out and fiercely guard spawning craters on the exact lake and canal bottoms that native sunfish and bass need to reproduce. They breed fast, they tolerate conditions that would kill a native, and they simply take over the real estate, crowding out the fish that were spawning there long before Florida had a single fish farm. And it is not one species but several. Blue tilapia, the West African spotted tilapia, Mozambique tilapia, each established, each competing, each pushing the natives off their own ground. The largest blue tilapia ever caught in the state topped 9.5 pounds. Number 9 earns its place because of how invisible its takeover has become. Nobody is alarmed by a tilapia. It is background now, the wallpaper of a South Florida canal. And that is exactly how a foreign fish erases a native one, not with a splash, but by quietly becoming normal. Number 8, the walking catfish. Number 8 does something a fish is not supposed to be able to do, and it is the reason it spread across the entire peninsula. The walking catfish is a native of Southeast Asia that established itself in Florida back in the 1960s. And it comes equipped with 2 abilities that break the normal rules of where a fish can live. It breathes air, and it walks. Using a special organ above its gills, it can survive out of water for long stretches, and by levering itself along on its stiff pectoral spines, it can haul its body overland, wriggling across wet grass, roads, and parking lots from one water body to the next. That means no pond in Florida is truly isolated from it. A dry season that would trap or kill a normal fish is for the walking catfish just a travel day. It reaches around 2 feet, it eats small fish, invertebrates, and eggs, and it became infamous for marching en masse into aquaculture farms and eating the stock alive, so notorious that in its worst years, farmers built walls around their ponds to try to keep the walking fish out. It spread across the peninsula anyway, into the canals, ponds, and marshes, showing up in places no waterway connects to. The denial here is that people assume water is a wall. If a lake is separate, the danger stays put. The walking catfish ignores the wall entirely, crossing dry land to reach the next stretch of native water. Number 8. Number 7. The armored catfish. Now we reach the invader that does not just eat native Florida, it dismantles the house native Florida lives in. The suckermouth armored catfish, the plicos you have seen stuck to the glass of a pet store tank, came to Florida through the aquarium trade in the 1950s, sold as living algae cleaners. Released into the wild, 2 species have gone everywhere, and they are almost purpose-built to be unkillable. A body sheathed in bony armored plates and locking spines, so that few native predators can even swallow one. Their real crime is structural. To breed, armored catfish dig burrows straight into canal banks and lake shorelines, and at scale, that tunneling collapses the banks, eroding shorelines by as much as 10 feet, dumping muck into the water and clouding it so badly that light stops reaching the bottom. As they graze, they scour and uproot the native aquatic plants that everything else depends on, and they vacuum up the eggs of native fish. They gulp air, they tolerate brackish water, and they have even been seen rasping algae off the backs of wintering manatees, harassing an endangered animal in the process. Number 7 does not win a fight with a native fish. It removes the native fish's world from underneath it. The banks, the plants, the clear water, the eggs. Erasure by demolition. Number 7. Number 6. The clown knifefish. We are right at the halfway point, and if you're still here, you clearly want to know what is actually finning around under all that Florida water, so hit subscribe if you haven't yet, because the top 5 is where the erasure goes from serious to staggering. Number 6 looks like something dredged up from another planet. A tall, flat, silver blade of a fish, with a long, rippling fin running the length of its belly and a row of black eye spots down its flank. The clown knifefish is native to Southeast Asia, turned up in Florida in the 1990s, and now owns Lakes Ida and Osborne and the canals around Boca Raton and West Palm Beach. Like so many of the winners on this list, it breathes air, which lets it thrive in the warm, stagnant, low-oxygen water that stresses native fish. It is a nocturnal ambush predator with a simple rule. If a fish fits in its mouth, it eats that fish. And it does not hunt alone. Clown knife fish school, which turns a single predator into a coordinated wall of them moving through a native fishery at night. The largest one documented in Florida ran 31 inches and nearly 10 pounds. It has become such a fixture that fishing guides now sell exotic Grand Slam trips built around catching it alongside the snakehead and the peacock bass, a tourism economy quietly built on top of an ecological problem. The clown knifefish earns number 6 because it is efficient, and it is hidden. A big, hungry, air-breathing predator working the dark, thinning out the small native fish while the surface stays perfectly calm. Number 6. Number 5, the peacock bass. Number 5 is the strangest entry on this list because Florida did not fight this invasion. Florida started it. In 1984, the state's own wildlife agency deliberately introduced the butterfly peacock bass, a brilliantly colored South American predator, into the canals of South Florida. On purpose. The logic was almost elegant. Release a warm water hunter that would prey on all the other non-native fish, the tilapia and the rest, and use one invader to control the others. And by its own narrow measure, it worked. Peacock bass are aggressive, sight-hunting predators that thrive in exactly the urban canal systems where the other exotics had taken hold, and they became the rare, non-native fish with actual catch limits because they now anchor a recreational fishery worth serious money to the state. But here is the honest complication, and it is the reason peacock bass belong on this list at all. A predator does not read the label on its prey. Peacock bass eat non-native fish, yes, and they also eat native ones, and they permanently added another aggressive foreign hunter to waters that already had too many. Whether 1984 was a masterstroke of biological control, or the moment Florida officially gave up and started managing its water as an exotic zoo, is a genuine debate. Number 5 is the invader we invited. Number 4, the flathead catfish. Number 4 is the one that hides in plain sight because unlike almost everything else here, it looks like it belongs. The flathead catfish is a Native American fish, but only in certain rivers. Drop it somewhere it did not evolve, and it becomes one of the most destructive freshwater predators on the continent. In Florida, it has been introduced into rivers like the Suwannee and the Santa Fe, systems full of fish found almost nowhere else on Earth. The flathead is a true apex predator, and biologists describe its diet with grim simplicity. If it can fit a fish in its mouth, it eats it. Where flatheads have been introduced, native redbreast sunfish and bullhead populations fall in step with their arrival. Worse, in Gulf-draining rivers, they are suspected of preying on the young of the Gulf sturgeon, a federally threatened species already clinging to survival, by eating the juveniles off the bottom. Once established, they are, in the flat words of one wildlife official, physically impossible to fully remove. The flathead ranks 4th because its disguise is nativeness. People see a big American catfish and feel nothing is wrong. But in the Suwannee, it is a foreign apex predator systematically eating a river full of species that exist nowhere else. Number 4. Number 3, the Bullseye snakehead. Number 3 is the one that will not stop spreading. The Bullseye snakehead, recently renamed the Goldline snakehead, is a large, air-breathing predator from Southeast Asia, and it established a breeding population in the canals of Broward County around the year 2000. What it has done since is the stuff of a slow-motion horror film. Using the same air-breathing, drought-shrugging toughness that keeps appearing on this list, it has crept outward through South Florida's endless canal grid at a documented pace of roughly 46 square kilometers a year, spreading from West Palm Beach down into Miami-Dade and pressing toward the edges of Everglades National Park. And in 2020, biologists found a brand new, separate population on the opposite side of the state, on the Gulf Coast in Manatee County, some 250 kilometers from the only other one in the country. They killed nearly 400 of them with nets, electrofishing, and poison, and they know that is not the end of it. The snakehead earns number 3 because containment is already failing. It breathes air, it survives drought, it grows past 2.5 feet, and it eats native fish and crowds them out. And Florida now bans releasing one alive if you catch it because putting it back is the same as spreading it. Every year, the map of where it lives gets bigger. Number 3. Number 2, the lionfish. And here at number 2 is the fish you were probably expecting at number 1, the poster child for the entire invasion, the face on every warning poster in the state. The lionfish is a stunning Indo-Pacific reef predator, banded in rust and white with a crown of venomous spines, and it should have stayed on the other side of the planet. The first one was reported off South Florida in 1985. From that single point, it spread across the Southeast Atlantic, the Gulf, and the Caribbean at a speed marine biologists still describe as unprecedented and alarming. What makes the lionfish so devastating is a lethal combination. It is a voracious, indiscriminate hunter. It eats the same small fish that native snapper and grouper depend on, and in Atlantic waters it has almost no natural predators to check it. It turns up everywhere, from reefs in 3 feet of water in the Keys down to wrecks hundreds of feet deep, so there is no refuge beyond its reach. The number that stopped researchers cold came out of a controlled study. A single lionfish on a reef reduced the recruitment of native reef fish by around 80%. 80% from one fish. Multiply that across thousands of reefs and you have a predator quietly gutting the nurseries of an entire ocean ecosystem. Scientists now rank it alongside zebra mussels and Asian carp as one of the worst aquatic invaders the country has ever seen, and as one USGS biologist put it, nobody saw it coming. The lionfish takes number 2, and it takes it easily. The only reason it is not number 1 is that the fish above it is doing something even more total, and doing it where almost no one can see. Number 2. Number 1. The Asian swamp eel. And so we arrive at number 1, and it is a fish most people have never heard of, doing the most complete erasure on this entire list in the most important wetland in North America. The Asian swamp eel is not a true eel. It is an air-breathing, snake-like fish from Southeast Asia, and it first turned up in Florida in 1997 near Tampa and Miami. It is nearly perfectly designed to be undetectable. Nocturnal, able to breathe air, and it spends its days buried in the mud of canals and shallow marshes. You can stand in water full of them and see nothing at all. For years, that invisibility fed a comfortable assumption that the swamp eel was harmless. Early assessments written soon after it was found in the wetlands concluded it posed little threat to Florida's ecosystems. The long-term data destroyed that assumption. As the eel spread across roughly 1,500 square kilometers of southern Florida and into Everglades National Park, researchers tracked what happened to the native life in the marsh where it settled. In one slough, 2 native crayfish species collapsed by more than 95%. Native fish species fell by more than 80%. Overall, the small fish and crayfish that form the base of the entire Everglades food web dropped by nearly 70%, and the specific prey the wading birds depend on to breed fell by 80%. Federal biologists have now flagged the swamp eel as a high-risk invader and warn that as it spreads into the rest of the Everglades, it could precipitate an outright ecosystem collapse. Think about what number 1 really means. Not one dead reef fish, not one crowded canal. The living machinery of the Everglades, the crayfish, the small fish, the food that feeds the herons and the storks and the alligators, being pulled out from the bottom by something you would never see, that almost nobody has heard of, and that no one has any idea how to remove. The swamp eel is number 1 because it is the purest version of this entire list. A foreign animal erasing native Florida so quietly and so completely that the water above it still looks right up until the end completely full. So here's what this list is really about. Not one fish. A pattern, repeating across every kind of water the state has. The canals of Broward, the reefs off Key Largo, the rivers of the Panhandle, the heart of the Everglades. In every one of them, something that came from somewhere else, an aquarium, a fish farm, an ocean, an entire hemisphere away, is quietly taking the place of something that had been there for 10,000 years, and the surface never changes to show it. Not fear. Fear is loud, and it fades. This is slower, and it does not fade. The tilapia is still on the spawning bed, the lionfish is still working the reef, and in the black mud under the most alive-looking wetland on Earth, something you will never see is emptying it out from underneath, one crayfish at a time. What is certain is that the water still looks full, that it gives up nothing to the eye, and that the bright, teeming, living surface of every canal and river and marsh in Florida tells you almost nothing at all about how much of what was native to it is already gone, and how much of what remains was never supposed to be there in the first place.